A cross between what many people know as a sticky bun, which is a rolled up dough filled with cinnamon and sugar, with a sort of sticky top and maybe some nuts on the top, and a Chelsea bun, which again is a rolled up dough with fruit in. And I'm going to do put fruit into my rolls, but I'm going to do the sticky top that goes with it, so no cinnamon and sugar basically. And it's not a difficult recipe, but it does take some time, as most recipes that use an enriched dough do. So I'm also going to use a Tangzhong method, which is to take some of the flour and the water and mix them together and heat them and mix them until I have a nice thick paste. That traps water into the flour basically, and it makes a much softer dough in the long run. So I'll show you that as well. Now I'll go on to the ingredients, and for the Tangzhong part of the dough I have 38 grams, which is a quarter of a cup based on scooping packed flour into a 250 milliliter cup of bread flour. You could use all-purpose or plain flour, but bread flour is better. It has a protein content of about 12%, and that's good for the structure of the rolls. And then I have 160 millilitres, 2/3 of a cup of water. So they're the ingredients just for the Tangzhong. And then for the main part of the dough, I have 430 grams, 3 cups minus 2 tablespoons of bread flour, again based on scooping packed flour into a 250 milliliter cup. I have 160 millilitres, 2/3 of a cup of milk. I have 1 medium egg and 1 medium egg yolk, and that would be large in the USA in both cases. I have 84 grams, which is 6 tablespoons of softened unsalted butter, 37 grams, which is 3 tablespoons of caster sugar, 9 grams, 1.5 teaspoons of salt, and 6 grams, 2 teaspoons of instant yeast. And then for the caramel that's going to go into my pan, I have 2 types of sugar. I have 100 grams, half a cup of light brown sugar. You could use dark brown, but I'm using light brown. And then I have 50 grams, a quarter of a cup of caster sugar. You could use granulated sugar. I have 6 tablespoons, 84 grams of of unsalted butter, which by the time I need it I will have melted, but I don't need it melted yet. I have 80 grams, a quarter of a cup of golden syrup. If you don't have golden syrup, you could use black treacle, or you could use molasses, or you could use corn syrup if you wanted to. I have 100 grams, 1 cup of pecans, which I have chopped quite roughly, 30 millilitres, 2 tablespoons of water, 1.5 grams, a quarter of a teaspoon of salt, and that's all the ingredients for each phase or each element of the rolls. Now, oh sorry, I didn't mention, I have 250 grams, 2 cups of dried mixed fruit, which is a combination of chopped mixed peel, sultanas, raisins and currants, and I have soaked those for an hour in hot water. You could use hot tea, you could even use hot water with some brandy or something in if you wanted to, and I'm letting them drain, and I will dry them off, pat them dry before I actually use them. So the first thing we need to do is to prepare our Tangzhong ready to mix our dough, and for that I take my flour and my 38 grams of flour and my 160 millilitres of water, and I'm going to mix them together. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to heat that and keep mixing it in intervals. And I'm going to heat it in my microwave in 15-second bursts, basically. Heat it for 15 seconds, take it out, give it a quick whisk, put it back in for another 15 seconds. And I'll do that 5 or 6 times until the mixture is thick, gloopy, and it forms ribbons on the top, or it sort of stays in a sort of mound or something on the top, and that will tell me that it's ready to be used. So I'll heat it a couple of times and then I'll show you what it looks like, and then I'll carry on heating it. So I've now heated that twice at 15 seconds each, and you can see that it's starting to clump and get thick. So I'm going to whisk it and get it smooth, and then I'll keep heating it in those 15-second bursts until I have the consistency I need. So that's the consistency I need, nice and gloopy basically. Like that. I'm just going to set that to one side for a moment, and then I'll set up to make the dough. So with my Tangzhong, I'm going to put that into the bowl of my stand mixer with the milk, and mine is still very hot, but the milk will cool it down. I'm just going to whisk that to get that combined. And that's good enough, and that's cooled it down enough that I can put my egg and my egg yolk in. I'll just whisk those to get those combined as well. So then I'm going to add my flour in, and my yeast, and I'll give those a little mix, but then I'm going to use my dough hook to bring that together into a dough. So I'm going to mix it with my dough hook on a low speed for about 2 minutes, 1 to 2 minutes, until it all comes together. So that's now turned into a shaggy dough, and I'm going to leave that just to rest for 15 minutes, and then in 15 minutes time I'll come back and we'll add the sugar and the salt, and then we'll continue to knead it before adding the butter as well and getting to the last stage of our dough. I've rested that shaggy dough for 15 minutes, so now I'm going to put my sugar in and my salt, and I'm going to knead that on a medium-low speed for about 5 minutes. So as you can see, that's nice and soft now and very sticky, and I'm going to continue kneading for a further 5 minutes, adding my butter in one piece at a time until it's fully incorporated. So I've kneaded that for 5 minutes with the butter incorporated like that, and it's still a very, very sticky dough, as you can see. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to tip that out onto the counter, and I'm going to put some flour on the counter, not too much, and I'm actually going to just put a little bit of flour on my hands as well, and then I'm going to just knead that a little bit. And form it into a ball like that. And then I'm going to pick that up and put that into a lightly greased bowl. I'll put it in one way and then I'll turn it over like that. And I'm going to cover that and leave it in a warm place until it doubles in size. And that might take about an hour. It depends on the temperature in the kitchen basically. But once it's doubled in size, I'll come back and we'll go on to the next step. So while the dough is rising in a warm place, I'm going to go on to make the caramel that's going to eventually form the top of the bun. So I've melted my butter, and into that I'm going to put my sugar, the two types, and my golden syrup. And the salt. And my 2 tablespoons of water, and then I'm going to mix those together. And so that was very simple, and what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to pour that into a 9-inch by 13-inch, which is 23 centimetres by 25, about 32 centimetre roasting pan basically. I'm going to spread that over the bottom. It should spread by itself really. Like that. And then I'm simply going to sprinkle my chopped pecans onto that. You could use walnuts if you wanted to, or any nuts you wanted, or not even bother with the nuts, but I think they'll give a nice crunch and a nice flavour. and that's it. So that can just sit there waiting to take the dough once we've rolled it out and cut into our pieces. So my dough has risen, as you can see, and I'm going to tip that out onto a floured surface like that, and I want to make a rectangle which is about 18 inches by 15 inches, so that would be 45 centimeters by 37 centimeters. Now I could roll it out, but I don't want to put too much flour on things, so I'm going to put some flour on my hands and I'm going to try to press it out into a shape. And my understanding of Tangzhong is that it actually helps with that process. And that's just about good enough. And I'm actually sticking it to my counter a little bit just to hold it in place because it's very sticky. And then I'm going to take my fruit, which I have now dried, and I'm going to sprinkle that on the top, leaving a gap around the edge. And I think that's good enough like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll that up and I'm going to keep it sort of comfortably tight, but not too tight. But I want to roll it so that the fruit gets enclosed and doesn't get pushed to the side. And then I'm going to squeeze the seams together all the way along. Like that. And I'll just check my length. And that's actually just a little bit longer than I wanted, so I'm going to just adjust it a little bit. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut that into 12 pieces, and to cut it into 12 pieces I'm going to divide it by just scoring and then like that. And then you could cut straight through, but because this is a very soft dough, I'm going to try something which I've seen people do with Czech dumplings, which is to take some cotton or some dental floss and just cut it through like that. And then I'm going to pick that up and I'm going to place it in my pan. Pick it up again and place it there. I want 3 across and 4 down. And I'm going to continue to do that and with the 12 in like that, I'm simply going to cover those with some plastic wrap. And I'm going to leave them until they've doubled in size again, and that might take 40 minutes to an hour. And once they've doubled in size, I can bake them. So I will at that stage have my oven preheated to 190 Celsius, that's 170 Celsius with a fan, 375 Fahrenheit, and I'll be ready to bake. But I'll come back before they go into the oven so you can see what they look like. I've left the dough, the rolled up dough, for an hour, and it's now risen. So this is what it looks like now, and some are sort of not quite so large as the others. That's just the way I cut them, I think. So I'm going to put those into my preheated oven, and I'm going to bake them for 30 to 35 minutes. I want to test the temperature, and when the temperature comes out at about 93, 94 Celsius, about 200 Fahrenheit, that will tell me that the dough is cooked. And at that stage I'll take them out. Now, if they begin to colour too much on the top, then I will cover them up with some aluminium foil part way through, but it should be okay. And so once I've taken them out of the oven, I'm going to leave them for 5 or 10 minutes, maybe just 5 minutes, and then I'll come back and turn them out onto a tray so that you can see what the tops, or the inverted tops, look like. I baked my sticky or fruity sticky buns for 33 minutes. I did 25 minutes, and then I covered them with aluminium foil and did them for another 8 minutes. I tested the temperature internally, and it was up over 95 degrees, so I knew that it was the dough was well cooked. So I took them out of the oven and I left them in the tin for 5 minutes. Then I turned them out onto a wire rack. So I'll show you a picture of what they look like in the tin now. And then this is what they look like once I've turned them out onto the wire rack. And I've left them for about 15 minutes just so that they firm up just a little bit, but they're very, very soft. And I've pulled one, or I've pulled two apart, but I've already had a taste of one. So this is the one that I've been tasting basically. And it's very, very soft, as you can see. So I'll have a taste of this piece. It's so soft, that dough. And the fruitiness coming through from the sultanas and the currants and the raisins and the mixed peel, very good indeed. You get the sweetness from the caramel and that lovely little crunch from the pecans. These really are good. And using this Tangzhong method, from all that I've read, actually helps keep the dough, or prevents it from going stale quite so quickly. So these will be good today, they'll be good tomorrow, and they will still remain soft. But if you think they're going stale, you can always pop them into the oven for a few minutes, or even into a microwave just for a few seconds, and that will refresh them completely for you. So I hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you have, please give me the thumbs up below and click to subscribe to my YouTube channel. In the top right hand corner of the screen there will be an eye that you can click on, and that will take you to a link for the recipe, and I'll put a link below the video as well, and I'll be back with another recipe in the very near future. So until then, happy baking.